Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa and welcome to Tuesday. I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far, wherever in the world you are. We're nearly at the end of ours here. And I am so happy to welcome back with me for our fortnightly catch up, Alice Pirola. How are you, beautiful Alice?
Thank you, Chantal. I am doing great. We're having tons of rain in Florida, and I understand you're freezing to death.
Yeah, I was just saying it's so crazy because I was just with one of my yoga friends this morning. She was just saying, she lives a little bit more inland than what I do. I'm right on the coast,
Right?
but her windscreen they were at -1 degree Celsius, right? We Celsius. So that's unheard of for us. And her whole windscreen was frozen over, and especially not at the coast. At the coast we have it's
You
not
have the
icy.
water, so yeah, it's not supposed to
Yeah.
be like that. I don't know, girls. Just strange and
Anyway,
funny things happening.
we we apparently being harped or darpered or harpered or darped or whatever it
Harper.
is. So I'm not being harpooned. I'm happy.
Oh my
Anyway,
goodness. Well,
yeah,
today is going to be a little bit different.
yeah.
So, do you want to
Well, I'm looking
explain?
forward to it because I know what we're going to be talking about today. We're looking at the book you've written, and you're actually going to read us some of your book that you've written, which I'm looking forward to hearing, which is chapter 2. And we obviously, as the title states, we're going to be looking at the horrors of the past and present mental health practices. And I think on the last show we chatted, we were speaking about that shock therapy, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember correctly. Yeah, which is
Mm-hmm.
such a traumatic thing, my word. Anyway, look forward to that. But hang on, before we actually get in there, let me just get our lovely Spooky 2
Okay.
advert up and running, who's our sponsor for the show. So it's Spooky 2, the little mini magic, the MiraMate, the one I'm always raving about. It's really, really, really a cool little gadget. And you also get the bigger home rife machines, depending on obviously what situation you healing in your body.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend this little MiraMate, exactly the one that I'm seeing there. As I always say, my mom uses that exact little one, and she
Mm-hmm.
absolutely um, uh, raves about it all the time. So, and I see her results. So, yeah, and of course, the home rife machines, the bigger ones. So, if you're interested in hearing more, get hold of Spooky 2. They're amazing people to work with. Um, Give my name, Chantal, as a coupon code, and then you will get your 5% discount.
Okay.
So, guys and girls, thank you so, so much. And then, Alice, I think over to you with your story on your book, chapter 2. When did you write this book, by the way? Tell us more before you go in there. Just tell us a little bit about when you wrote this book, what inspired you, because I think writing is such a good therapy as it is, right?
Mhm.
But I think it can be so difficult when you're putting something so raw out there, because once you write something, you can't take it back because
Mhm.
it's really true in the moment, isn't it? And that is your
Oh yeah.
truth, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
I've been writing this book for 10 years, and I know that sounds crazy. I've blown through two publishers. Um, and it's really hard because publishers kind of want to own you in a way, and they want the direction of the book to go the way they want it to. And so my first publisher was kind of like, well, you have to present as totally healed, no symptoms, no this, no that. And I was like, I'm still going to be symptomatic for the rest of my life. And if we're doing a book tour or a book signing or anything happens and I go into symptoms, if I have a panic attack or anything happens, I don't want people to feel that I'm incongruent because I've been told that I'm not supposed to have any symptoms. And so we fought like banshees, her and I, my first publisher. And so we had to break contract because we just couldn't see eye to eye on anything. And then my second publisher, which was more recent, she just really was going off in another direction where I was like, oh man, this woman is not on the same page with me. She acted like she was in the beginning, and then it just got tighter and tighter until I felt like I was being suffocated. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do a self-publish. I'm just going to self-publish. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And the book's been piecing together. I have not stressed myself out on it because of the fact that I just feel it takes so much to do a work that you want to be happy with. Like you were saying, once it's out there, it's out there. And I have grown and developed over those 10 years, so much more so. And so this has been a
So it
good.
really is your journey. It's not just like let's say, an autobiography of your life type thing. It really is a journey of what you've been through, what you've experienced, and how you've obviously managed it, to heal your family relations and your relationships, and really just come to terms with what it is, because I really think that that's so important.
Yeah.
Honestly, as a healer, all I can say is that the minute we acknowledge something, the minute we acknowledge that, yes, this is what it is, we as human beings create so many layers and so many levels of excuses not to go and look at the core wound of whatever is creating the imbalance in our bodies, right? Or in our minds, or whatever it might be.
Right.
But the minute we acknowledge it, and then firstly, you feel 80% lighter. The minute you've said, because, and I do believe that's where Jesus says, the truth shall set you free.
Correct.
Because in recognizing the truth of your situation, the truth is not always pretty and in pink pansies, right? It's the truth can sometimes be very gritty and very harsh to
Very
face. But
painful.
when we face it, it's very forgiving, and it's such a beautiful experience, because it really it does set you free. It releases you of a lot of baggage. It releases you of a lot of physical pain, even instantaneously. I've literally worked with people over the years who they would be coming in there with backache, neck ache. One woman was so overweight. She was, I mean, when I saw her walk up my stairs to come and see me, I looked at her and went, oh my gosh, I said, this woman is dying. She's literally on her way out. I could just see it. And within half an hour of having conversations as to what was really killing her, because it wasn't something physical, she acknowledged that. And within that moment, she made the shift. And to this day, she's around. And she then became my art teacher for a while.
Praise
Because
God.
she was an art teacher.
Awesome.
Yes, so she taught me how to paint with watercolors. I mean, I didn't do it for long. I then moved not long after that, actually. But it's so amazing when you release yourself of something, and it's not necessarily a guilt of something you've done to someone, but it's more realization of what you need to look at within yourself, because that is such a liberating thing that only you can change or heal what is amiss or misfiring or hurting inside of you. And that's the beauty when we make those realizations, when we come to those conclusions, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's gut wrenching. It's putting your soul on paper, then that's what it is. But it's good. Now today's topic is very, very difficult. I am reading from chapter 2, which does a backsplash into mental health over the years, actually over the centuries. And so I'm going to do something different. I'm actually going to read from the chapter, but I want Shanti, you to feel free, or anyone in the chat to feel free to just jump in and ask a question or say, stop, hold up. This is very difficult for me to read because I feel like this is my people. This is where I come from. You know, this is what I relate to. And believe me, it took me a long time. I've read this like 4 or 5 times before I got on here so that it makes it not as, I don't know how to say shocking, so that I'm not going to start bawling my eyes out in front of you. So, but I'm going to start with the opening, which is a quote that I'm using in my book. And Doretha Dix, back in 1843, she was a mental health advocate, and she lived in Massachusetts and went before the legislature of Massachusetts. So I'm going to start with her quote. And this is what she said to the legislature. I have come to present the strong claims of suffering of humanity. I come to place before the legislature of Massachusetts the condition of the miserable, the desolate, the outcast. I come as the advocate of the helpless, forgotten, insane men and women confined in cages, closets, cellars, stalls, and pens, chained naked, beaten with rods, and lashed into obedience. I beg, I implore you to put away the spirit of selfishness and self-seeking, lay off the armor of local strife and political ambitions, forget, I beg you, the perishable, the thought without mercy. Gentlemen, I commit to you a sacred cause of the mentally ill. So that's a quote from Doretha Dix.
Into submission. Whipped into
Oh,
submission.
we haven't heard
Wow.
anything yet. As I read this chapter, this part of the chapter, and we'll do part 2 next week if we so desire. So, like I say, take a deep breath, everyone. This is the plague and the journey of the mentally ill back through going to the 1700s. Okay, so if we take a look back on how the psychiatric wards were run in the 17, 18, and 1900s, it would be as if a psychiatric patient were locked in 2 cells. The one prison cell is that of their own brain and the inability to connect and conduct a life worth living with a serious mental health condition. The other prison cell inflicted upon them by society was also known as an asylum or a lunatic ward back then. Psychiatric patients of this time in history spent the greater part of their lives in the lunatic wards in overcrowded conditions. Some would sit quietly in rocking chairs all day with only their own thoughts for company as conversation and noise were discouraged. The treatments these patients were subjected to were horrific to say the least. People would be submerged in a bath for hours at a time, mummified in a wrapped packing, or sprayed with a deluge of shockingly cold water and showers. Asylums back then also relied heavily on mechanical restraints, the use of straitjackets, manacles, waistcoats, and leather wristlets, sometimes for hours, days, and even months at a time. It was a known fact that the person's skin would grow over the shackles or the manacles that they were placed on for extended periods. In the asylums for the poor and mentally ill, they would be chained together. 3 or 4 half-naked creatures would be thrust into a chamber filled with straw as if they were animals. They were left there to exasperate each other with their attempts at violence or endless gibbering, or just sit in silence moping. The main function of these mental institutions was simply to keep their inmates in custody. The gatekeepers were little more than guards, and it was not uncommon for patients to be kept in chains or other restraints most of the time. They were used and accepted as necessary, as there was much violence between the patients and the guards. It would be an understatement to say that the Middle Ages up through the mid 20th century was the time the mentally ill were treated cruelly. Another known treatment that was meant to give relief to the mentally ill was called bloodletting. This name was given to describe the removal of blood for medical treatment. It was believed in those days that to rid the body of injured, impure fluids would cure a host of conditions, including mental illness. Bloodletting involves cutting a vein or artery, typically at the elbow or knee, to remove the infected blood from the patient, and they would bleed out. The guards over the mentally ill in those days were often taken from a pool of the same sublevels of society as many of the patients themselves. These watchmen were delighted to have control over humanity considered even more God-forsaken than they. The guards made sure that the patients had levels and varieties of cruelty, both physically and psychologically, upon the stories of which have not been surpassed in our history. Add to this the fact that the administration behind the institution had a total lack of interest in sanitation. A roof could cave in, or human waste would gut the drains. Sickness was left to fester, and patients often died from lack of attention to symptoms. The beating, shackling, taunting, starving, hygienic neglect, and even murdering of people behind the bars were tactics that were adopted with varying degrees of intensity throughout these times. The patients were often punished for their behavior. Treatment and punishment would be hard to tell apart. These prisoners would be strapped to a chair naked and spun around insanely as they were hosed down with ice cold water. They would then be sequestered, chained to a wall, sometimes for extended periods, their ankles and wrists festering with gangrene. It was common practice that those marked with mental illness were shunned, locked up in the asylum, or on a rare occasion even put to death. Stripped of their rights, people housed in psychiatric institutions were also subject to horrifying experimental treatments that left them scarred or sometimes dead. This would be an explanation as to the massive graves discovered on the properties of the asylums. An asylum in Topeka, Kansas, subjected patients to unthinkable procedures as they attempted to cure them. Kansas law gave the green light to castrate people with mental illness. The hospitals didn't hesitate to carry out this surgery on criminals, idiots, epileptics, imbeciles, and the insane, some of which weren't even proven to be mentally disturbed. Many patients were beaten and raped. The hospital ceased operation in 1997, and most of the buildings have since been demolished. Moving forward into the 1930s and the Great Depression, the suicide rate rose more than 30%. 3 times as many people were admitted to state mental hospitals as in normal times. The Great Depression and economic problems forced many Americans to make sacrifices that affected them for the rest of their lives. People were jumping off buildings and running into traffic to take their lives. Conditions also deteriorated due to lack of funding during the Great Depression. Public hospitals were understaffed and patients were often left without any kind of treatment. This prompted people to begin to embrace the idea of a speedy, simple cure, and they were hopeful that surgery could provide it. One of these cures of surgeries was called lobotomy. This is a procedure in which the brain's frontal lobe nerves are severed by inserting tools, an ice pick, and a hammer through the eye socket. The doctor would then proceed to blindly take out certain portions of the person's brain. This left people childlike, incompetent, incontinent, and incapable of taking care of themselves. In the 1930s, mental illness also was treated by putting the patient into a convulsive state a coma, a fever, or a state of sedation induced by electroshock therapy, camphor, insulin, and/or malaria. Thankfully, during this time, the treatment of mental disorders and psychoses began taking a different shape in talking cures. This was led by Sigmund Freud and other psychotherapists known as Carl Jung. Abnormal behavior and low levels of economic productivity were thought to be a burden to the society, and therefore the mentally ill were not to be incorporated into society. Along came drug treatments in the 1950s. The introduction of the first antipsychotic was introduced in the first half of the 50s, and the first antidepressant in the late half of the 50s. It is said that the induction of these drugs profoundly changed practices and permanently integrated psychiatry into the field of modern medicine. Few treatments used in psychiatry have such a rich past as that of electroconvulsive therapy, also known as electric shock treatment or ECT. Researchers continue to investigate and use forms of ECT and related therapeutics to this day. The roots of ECT are found in the concept of using one disease to treat another. In 1934, a Dr. Meduna observed the brains of patients with epilepsy compared with patients with schizophrenia. He theorized that seizures could be used to treat psychiatric disease. Dr. Meduna would intramuscularly inject camphor, an eptogenic agent, into a mute catatonic patient, thereby inducing a chronic seizure. It is said that through this, although there was no immediate effect, after 4 to 5 more treatments, the patient would be able to walk, speak, and feed himself, although he was unable to recall most of a 4-year stay in the hospital. Seizures took minutes to begin after this agent was injected into the patient, during which time they suffered a nervous sympathetic overdrive and a profound sense of terror. Doctors sought to derive a method that would bring about quicker seizure induction with fewer side effects. They began testing their techniques on patients and dogs by inserting one electrode in the mouth and one in the anus. After observing that this tended to induce cardiac arrest, they refined their procedure to focus the electrical current cranially. The first human trial on a 39-year-old man with schizophrenia was held in 1938. They applied 110 volts of alternating current and successfully induced to a seizure. After 10 more treatments over the course of the patient's hospitalization, he was able to return back to his wife and job in the community. This treatment represented a tremendous breakthrough, and doctors began using it for patients with major depression, and it was even studied for the treatment of psoriasis and gastro-induced ulcers. In the United States, however, ECT treatments were generally given 2 to 3 times weekly for 3 to 4 weeks for a total of 6 to 12 treatments, and it was found that it would cause changes in the brain chemistry in a good way, or repair changes to the brain that are caused by severe and chronic depression. It especially was useful in cases where other treatments were not an option or would not have worked. But electric shock therapy was banned, however, on March 4th of 2020 by the FDA to treat self-injury or aggressive behavior, saying the devices present an unreasonable and substantial risk of illness or injury, and it was shown that ECT was linked to significant physical and psychological risks, including more advanced depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. I have personally known people that have gone through ECT treatment who have lost great portions of their long-term and short-term memory due to these treatments. This is another reason the FDA banned the treatment in 2020. And that is just the first half of the chapter.
Wow. Firstly, Rivka, thank you so much. I really appreciate your stuff. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Very interesting. And I didn't want to interrupt you because I think that I wanted to really hear everything you said. I find it interesting you were saying that the first antipsychotics and drugs came in the early 50s, and then the antidepressants in the late 50s. So are you saying that up until really that time, that people in mental institutions and psychiatric hospitals or anything like that were treated in a worse way than what you would treat people treat animals, really? Beaten into submission. I mean, I can understand that cold water therapy is good because I take cold showers in the
Mm-hmm.
morning and I dunk my face in ice water every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really is good. In fact, I saw something the other day where someone was talking about this. I just came across it, and he was saying cold showers are the new cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, things like you can have like a short-term hit, like a dopamine hit, like even smoking will give you a dopamine hit, but it lasts for 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
cold showers will give you a 250% dopamine hit that lasts for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand that that would be part of healing, but certainly not the way that they were administering it. I mean, how do you just spray people with cold water and leave them mummified in submerged in icy water? I think that's what you were saying there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There,
And they would wrap them in cello
mm,
wrap, in like a cellophane wrapping, and they would be naked, just wrap them. There was no respect for the
yeah,
mentally ill.
absolutely,
Absolutely none.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So up until the 50s, were they pretty much being treated like that?
Yes. As a matter
I
of
mean,
fact,
I know that if you sort of go into some of these old mental hospitals around here that are no longer operational or whatever,
hmm
it's a very crazy thing to actually walk through there and see the places that the people were staying in. It's actually absurd. It is horrible, what I've seen anyway.
hmm
Um, so it would make sense to me what you're saying. Do you know who created these drugs in the 50s?
yeah. Well, I don't know who created the drugs, but I do know the names of the drugs. I didn't. I don't know who created them. I could find out. Um, it was chlorpromazine was the antipsychotic, and imipramine, I can't even pronounce these, was the antidepressant.
What Layla's saying, antidepressants actually made my brain fire, and I agree with that. I think when you take in stuff like that, you've got to find the right combination that
Mm-hmm.
works for you and your specific chemistry. I think so. And even then, she's saying it even lists it in the side effect. I mean, who
Mm-hmm.
will put a pill on the market, an depressant pill on the market, and market as safe when the side effect is that you will commit suicide? That's like they, it's showing me that these guys are actually not really sure most of the time what they're doing. And
No,
as you say, they're using people
no.
and dogs. The poor dogs. Why would they use dogs? I mean, it absolutely breaks my heart to know what these people do to animals in laboratories in the name of their obscene tests, not just medical tests, but cosmetics for our vanity.
Mm-hmm.
The things that this testing um,
But they
puts.
would do that on the psychiatric patients too.
But that's what I'm saying here.
Mhm.
So they were using these patients to test their new fandangled. Um, I'd be interested because in the 60s, that's when, and I've spoke about it before, that guy, who was the guy again that created LSD in one of the labs in
Mm.
America. Now, it seems that all of these things were coming about at the same time. I'm wondering if they would have tested LSD and stuff like that on people who were psychiatric.
That's part 2 of the chapter.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
I
but then we'll
go into the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to present in part 2 of the chapter. Yeah.
Layla's saying yeah as well, even cupping. I mean, I do cupping. Cupping is amazing. Body cupping, I love it. It's just the best feeling ever. Bloodletting, and I'm pretty sure cupping works very, very well if it's done properly. I know my friend who had pneumonia as well. She went for cupping on her back, and
I've
it's
had
amazing.
cupping for my migraines. It didn't necessarily help, but yeah, it's pretty
Now I found for me, but I mean, I don't have any huge like bad ailments. To me, just the general overall feeling is really amazing because it obviously gets everything going. And I think what often one needs to do in these types of situations, right, is actually just get your energy going, right? So maybe breathe, walk, or just, and like she's saying, and that's why she says bloodletting is also recognized treatment, but not in the way that it was administered in those reports. So again, done in such an obscene way, disrespectful, really just using them as, and like these test objects, right? Less than, not worthy of being human, treated like absolute worse than animals.
Hitler and the Nazis used psychiatric patients all the time for their tests.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah.
And the rumor has it that in some of the Asian countries, and please guys don't quote me on this, but I have heard this, is that you'll see very, very few physically challenged children and mentally challenged children because they're not allowed really into society.
I believe that to be true. I believe
and they are taken into these homes and they are tested upon into these facilities, and tests are certainly performed on them. I hear a loud whining sound. Okay, I don't hear any wide lining sound. Loud whining sound. Sorry. I'm just wondering if Mornay in the background there can hear anything. Mornay, one of the viewers is just saying she's hearing a. Let me just say this again.
I hear
a loud whining sound.
It's like feedback when you speak, Shanti. It sounds like feedback.
Who is it, Monet? Is it me? Okay, or Alice?
Hello,
Talk, Alice.
hello.
Can't really make it out. Okay, guys, sorry. We can't hear it. I don't hear it. Usually I hear an echo or a screech or something. And this is actually the second time this week that we've had this, that viewers have also said that. So we are currently out of scrutiny. So hang tight there with us. All right. Okay, I'm just looking at some of the comments here. I just want to go up a bit. Sorry about that. Albert Hoffman discovered LSD.
Now I'm getting an echo. I'm getting an echo on everything I say.
Okay, Monet, whose sound is that?
Mine. Okay, now it's off. The echo's off now. The echo's gone. Yay! But
sorry, guys. No apologies necessary, Ellen. I hope that we can figure it out. So they're saying it's my sound. It's coming off me.
Yeah.
But I hope it's fine now.
It's just like feedback. It's like a ringing.
That's crazy.
So anyway, it's basically, and the stigma today still exists. There's a book. It's not mine. This is a book. I don't know if y'all can see it. and it's No One Cares About Crazy People by Ron Powers. No One Cares About Crazy People. And he had two sons that exhibited as totally normal, completely fine up until their teens, and then they started to show signs of schizophrenia. And as a spoiler in the book, I'll just say one of his sons committed suicide, and the other one is still alive today. But it's true. Nobody cares about crazy people. That's that. I love the title of that book because it's just so true, you know. And
I think, if we look at, let's think of someone who's, let's say you're in a supermarket or a store or something, and someone has a mentally or a physically handicapped child with them,
Mhm.
or an adult that they're pushing, whatever. I have noticed how people walk circles around people like that. It's almost, it's they say the very thing I'm not liking in you is what I need to heal inside of me, right? We're talking again about the mirror or the hologram and stuff like that. So it's almost like that to me is a representation of society in general, generally,
Mhm.
people who just can't handle, they don't know what to do. They have no idea. They're not to deal with someone who's handicapped. They have no idea how to deal with someone who's mentally handicapped. They've
Mhm.
never been taught. You've got to be sort of straight down the middle. That's normal. That's the
Mhm.
way it is. Anything out of there is to be feared. It's like if you're scared of a spider, you'll rather kill it. Leave it, pick it up, take it outside. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Everything that is alive deserves to be here, right? And is here by God's good grace.
It is
And I think so
so
often, I
true.
think what we need to see is, why do we feel so uncomfortable in these types of situations? And I think that is the type of questioning we as individuals should be asking ourselves. And
Mhm.
I think and I know a lot of the people in the chat have either had family or experienced something like that themselves.
Mhm.
So they
Mhm.
kind of know what it's like to be in there, right? But someone like myself, I've never had mental labels, if you will, in my family. I've never, or physical for that
Mhm.
matter. So I don't know what it's like to deal with a bipolar mother. I've no idea. You know what I'm saying? And my mother was strong and feisty and gave us hell when we needed to, and the rest of the
Mhm.
time we were wonderful. You know what I'm saying? Um, so that's the kind of experience I've had. So I think people who've never had that run away from it.
Mhm.
It's not normal. They're scared of it. It makes them uncomfortable because it's probably a little bit of their own craziness that they can't deal with, or something like that, right? When you're looking at it like that, because everyone has their own little hidden triggers and things.
Mhm. It's so funny that you say that. Joe and I, my husband, were at a shopping market a couple days ago, and this young black boy came in a wheelchair. His mother was pushing him, and he was completely like locked up. All his muscles, his hands, everything locked up.
Mm.
And he was hunched over and he was just crying and sobbing and sobbing. And I just put everything down, and it wasn't even a thought. It was just like, just do it. And I just
Mm.
knelt down next to him and I took his hands and I looked at him and I said, "Why are you crying, sweetheart? What is wrong? Why are you crying?" And his mother said, "He's nonverbal. He's not going to be able to talk to you." And I said, "That's okay. He can hear me." And I said, "What is wrong, sweetheart?" And all of a sudden, his head went up and he was like looking into my eyes, so intense. It was so intense and so amazing. And we connected, and I was like, why is everybody like so afraid to go near a person like this when they're so beautiful
Yeah,
inside,
exactly.
you
I want to,
know?
I want to actually, I want to go into that. I want to just stop for an ad break here, but there's,
Okay.
I'd definitely like to comment on that as well. So we're just going to take a 2 minute ad break here.
Okay.
Thanks.
The story of our founder. After witnessing the sufferings of many patients and resolving to help them, John White has developed several safe, effective, and affordable alternative medical devices. MiraMate aims to help everyone live in peace, harmony, and balance. Harnessing nature's endless energy, MiraMate's goal is to help the human body heal and bring wonders in recovery. The name MiraMate consists of two words, miracle and mate, meaning the products will bring miracles to the body and become a reliable partner for health issues. MiraMate Magic Pro has been released around 2 months till now. We got many wonderful testimonials about Magic Pro from our customers. Siddheshwar Chopra, who is our certificated trainer, talked about the much anticipated and welcomed full-body PEMF Magic Pro. Sid has tried it for his mother and himself, and seen really good results. Also, another friend Steve Chia shared his feeling about Magic Pro.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Siddheshwar Chopra. I have few testimonials to share about Magic Pro. I have recently purchased it as I have been a big fan of magnetic therapy since quite some time now. Recently what happened was, my mom has diabetes since many years and she gets this burning sensation on her feet since quite some time and she couldn't sleep well. So what happened was, it's like 15 to 20 days before, she slept in PEMF field on Magic Pro and I played some emotional frequencies and some chakra frequencies, and to my surprise she reported the very next day that the burning sensation got down to 60%. From 100% it came down to 60%.
Our mission is to inspire better health among individuals. We envision bringing MiraMate to every family, making it accessible and beneficial to all. At MiraMate, we prioritize our customers above all else. We serve them with creativity, love, honesty, and gratitude.
I wish that I had MiraMate in those days. Has always been available to humanity, actually. All of these. If we go back and we look into the times of Tartaria, and we look at those ancient ways, they did a lot of water therapy, water healing, playing sound to the water because the water molecules took on a certain shape then, and when you ingest that, the molecules were healing for the body. So there's so many natural ancient techniques that we've been that have been lost on us, I think, because modern medicine is just kind of, or big pharma or pharmacia or the cabal. I just say the cabal,
I think it's the cabal. I mean, it's what is it? It's the treatment of these people. It's like the trafficked children,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just pure evil, or it's like SRA, satanic ritual abuse. It's evil.
Yeah,
there is
absolutely.
no other word for it. So
Absolutely.
these people delight in seeing the pain and suffering of other human beings.
It's exactly that, because we understand that God creates, God gives light, God brings joy, all the wonderful things, and the Lucy's suck everything out of that. So they will find, where we take a lot of joy and delight in healing and being kind, maybe, and assisting others, such as my guinea fowls shouting outside my door now. They will always come when I can't feed them, and I feed them, like I make sure they have but they'll come and harass me.
Oh my
Anyway,
goodness. We
but
got
what I
guinea
want,
now, we got ringing noises, we got echoes.
well, I'm so happy because apparently the high pitched tone is gone. Apparently, what some of the viewers are saying is that was coming from me.
Yeah.
Who, me? Are you sure?
I'll
Anyway,
take the blame for you if you want.
thank you so much. You
No,
know what I but wanted to say about that was as well. Funny, again, lately there's a couple of people that that's a great thing about social media, I think, as well. Is that you can kind of get stuff like this out there, but they're doing like these social experiments. So there'd be a guy sitting in a restaurant, right, and ordering some burger and French fries or whatever, but he pretends to have some kind of condition, and he
right.
can't pick up his food, and he's trying to eat his food, and he can't. And then you see the people around him, how they react. It is amazing. It's like some of them are super uncomfortable and they'll get up and walk away. And some will like just look and really not know what to do. And then you'll get, usually a woman will get up and go and sit next to him and actually help him eat
Yeah.
or whatever it is. I've seen a couple of those, which is very, very interesting, and again, and then of course they say, okay, this is a social experiment. And we were just trying to see how people react in these types of situations. So it makes sense, that, and really at the end of the day, why wouldn't you want to help that person, right? Why wouldn't you want to help that person? If that was me, I would immediately want to get up and do something and sort of just say, are you okay? Can I call someone? I don't know, can I do something? But so many people, and you know how many people have asked me over the years, how do you deal with being a healer? I can't deal with other people's crap. No, people in their crap must just stay away from me. I've got enough of my own crap in my life. So also, I've heard that so often, that people are so involved in their stuff,
Right.
become so disconnected because of their problems, because life for most people is a problem, right? Most people don't find joy in life. It's always money and jobs and whatever the case might be. So when we look at these situations and how everyone reacts to each other, it's actually super, super interesting, especially these social experiments.
I think it's fear. Well, first, I think it's evil, but I think it's fear of the unknown, fear of not knowing
Absolutely.
how to react. I remember one night at a church service, a young man, when he had the phobia of crowds and people. And so he went into the service and then he started into a panic attack. And literally, he was just curled up on the floor in a fetal position. And he was rocking back and forth and he was, screaming out loud and everything like that. And everybody's just standing there looking at him. So I knelt down and I gently put my hands on him and I said, let's breathe together. And I started, doing the breathing technique with him. And eventually he was able to sit up and then he was able to breathe and then he was able to talk and, just working him through it. They had called the police. They had coming in, with their guns on their holsters and everything else for a panic attack. And I'm like, for goodness sakes, guys, can't you see this guy is just having an episode, of a panic attack, period. That's it. But people aren't trained. They don't know how to work with it. The only way I know how to work with it is because I've lived through it. The only way I know how to work with it is because I've been trained to work with it,
Absolutely. What do you say to, and again, I know we often address this, because again, just from what I was just saying about the social experiments and what you just saying there about someone having a panic attack and the cops are called, I've heard stories and seen stuff over the years oftentimes someone is walking down the street and they're having some kind of a episode, and they immediately get accused of being drunk or high or something, and don't know how to, you know what I'm saying? So it's automatically an assumption that that person has self-inflicted, so to speak, themselves with alcohol or drugs or whatever. How few people realize, okay, well, that could be and of course, we can't expect everyone to know everything. I don't. I'm wanting to learn, and I think this is what we're all understanding. If we have a sense of compassion, we are able to give our assistance to another human being when in need, or another being, animal, human, whatever the case might be, right? So only through closer inspection and communication do you get to understand what the real issue is. It could be something very different to what we assume. And I think all of us need to maybe do a little bit of research on these topics, and especially if we suspect. I mean, do you know that this is a horror story. One of my really good friends, her dad tried to strangle her last night.
Last night?
Yes.
Oh, my word.
I'm like, what is going on?
Did he have a history of this, or what was?
Very narcissistic. Very narcissistic.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I don't know his background too much, but it's just like, how does a father get to the point that he throws his daughter up the wall, puts his hands around her neck, and threatens to, in lots of cuss words, take her out, basically? At what breaks? You know what I'm saying? There's something and I'm sure that's the sort of thing that happens a lot more regularly than we know. And these are the things often that families will keep secret, right? And it's a shame, and we don't talk about it because of whatever the reasons. So I honestly believe that if we understood more about these conditions, then we are also equipping ourselves more to deal with that. And if something like this is happening in your family, then we do need to start speaking out and actually asking for help, because these things.
That's a psychotic episode. That's a psychotic break.
Yeah.
When somebody goes into that type of rage where it wouldn't matter who the person is, his daughter, it could be a stranger, it could be anybody.
Exactly.
Whatever pushed him to that point to do that, especially having narcissistic personality disorder, is very, very dangerous. And that coupled with something like schizophrenia, where you hear voices where people are told to kill their children, mothers are told to kill their children, and you hear these reports on television and on the news, and it's like, why would a mother ever do that? Mothers that have put their kids in the car and drove into a lake and drowned themselves and their kids at the same time. You've heard all these stories. That is a psychotic break.
Yeah.
That is the mind breaking and literally going off the rails.
Yeah.
So
and I think, again, I think about him, because there has to be a moment that he collects and gathers his wits and actually has a compos mentis moment about what he did, right?
Maybe.
Or it might be very short-lived. But then quickly he's going to cover it up with excuses and things as to why he did it, and she did this, and if that, and that, because that's usually what happens. None of these people take responsibility for their actions, really. It's always the other person's fault. Like, if you look at these abusive situations, yes, but you made me do it for X and Y, Z reasons, right? So that's why I say, for him to now step back from that and actually be a proud father after that is impossible. So something in him fundamental has broken,
Right.
which means it's going to chip away at his psyche until the end of days now, right? So
Now,
it's
what did they do, Shanti? Did they get him help? Did somebody intervene, or did they just shove it under the carpet?
it's being dealt with currently. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they are doing something to get him help.
Well, I'm not sure about that because he's got to accept the help, and that's not happening.
If
You
he
know, it's one of
doesn't
these.
accept the help, then he is extremely dangerous.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And for something like that, that's why I say to overstep that line. And I agree with you. You know, at that point when someone sees red, and she's obviously bringing up a whole lot of triggers for him, because of whatever it is that she's triggering in him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now is his reaction is that, and in that moment, absolutely, he sees nothing but red.
Mm-hmm.
But then he calms down an hour or 2 or 10 or 15 or 20 later, and then he has to, in a calm space, actually integrate what he did. It's there. It's not like it didn't happen. It's not like he forgot it. But my point is, when you as a man bear that on your conscience, that you literally try to kill your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and she, you know, what she said to me was the look in his eyes. She just said the look in his eyes was, that's the thing that scared her the most. So these things are happening, you know, and I know, and I mean, the point I'm bringing this up is that it's like happening, I think, a lot more regularly than what we are aware of. And that kind of thing only happens when someone's been broken, right? Something in that person broke a long time ago, for him to be having these type of reactions, for him to be the
Absolutely.
for him to be the narcissistic character that he is. But at the end of the day, it's really, and that's exactly what I said. That's the thing that makes him so dangerous now, because that break can never be repaired. It's not like he sat and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let's sort it out," or whatever. It's denial, right? So, and that break, even though he's not acknowledging it, will never go away. And it's going to chafe and wound and make it bigger and bigger. And that's what makes him so dangerous, because at any point in time, again, he can fly off the handle and just kind of like
She needs to
finish
get away.
something.
She needs to get
Yeah,
out of, extract herself from the situation. She needs to
totally. Yeah.
extract herself from the house. But you know, to leave it on a better note, it's just, mental health is a disease of the brain. And the sooner that it's caught, and the sooner that parents of a child with a mental health issue can notice something going on and get treatment, the right kind of treatment for that child. I mean, you can notice things. I was displaying as early as 5 years old. My parents were clueless. But, you know, if you have parents that are in tune, that are noticing their child, that can say, let's intervene here, let's get some counseling, let's get some help, that is what needs to be done. And also, you know, my theme is empathize, educate, advocate. And so, oh, our doorbell is ringing. Sorry. You need to educate people on how to deal with mentally ill people. Now, the situation with your girlfriend, you extract yourself completely from that situation. He needs to be taken care of. He needs to have serious intervention, serious, like psychiatric ward intervention at this point. And he needs serious medication, antipsychotics, because he is definitely displaying in a psychotic way. Anybody
Yeah,
that would do something like that, you know, so he would need antipsychotics. He's a candidate for that. But, the sooner we can educate ourselves, have empathy for these people, work with them, understand and let them be in their family, not try to hide or cover it up or make excuses for it. It's there. You've got to deal with it. You've got to deal with it. So I hope this has helped. Um,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know,
Thank you so much. Sorry, Alice, for yet another amazing chat with you. And we look forward to having you back again in 2 weeks' time, where we do
yeah,
the second half of
mhm,
your book, the chapter that we're reading.
mhm,
Super fascinating and really, wow. I must say, we've come a long way since the 40s and the 50s,
mhm,
and I think, and I was saying in one of our previous chats as well, it's really been in the 60s that emotions started being
mhm,
acknowledged and recognized as something which is fundamentally important. And
mhm,
I've got to say, that didn't come from the doctors and things, right? This was coming from definitely women psychologists, healers, stuff like
mhm.
that. That's where this information has really come from.
Right.
So we've come a long way to understand how the body works, how the each part of the body means something, how we can, just by aligning ourselves with certain things, we can have a different experience. But
Mhm.
anyway, thank you, everybody. God
Yes.
bless
Thank
you
you for
all.
listening. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Alice. And we'll
And
see you
thank you,
again in 2 weeks'
Chantal.
time. Yeah, indeed. Thanks to all our listeners, guys. Thank you. And ladies, Mandy. I did see Scotty here today, did I? Can't remember if I saw boys in the chat. Even if you're not showing your faces. Probably all lying there watching. Okay, guys and girls, thank you. Take good care of yourselves. God bless you all. Mwah. See you back with Kerry. Listen, I'm looking at Kerry Woolley's number, yeah, Alice Pirola,
Mhm,
in 2 weeks' time. And I've got Tom Altox in an hour and a half. So join us for that. We're going to be chatting about the hive mentality.
the
And for those
hive.
of you, yeah, for those of you who no, Tom. He's the actual creator of the movie The Matrix. It was stolen from him by Wachowski brothers, in other words, Warner Brothers,
Mhm,
and he's been on a big mission over the past 3 years just to sort of prove it. And of course, has gone through
mhm,
many different types of hell to prove that the material in fact belongs to him. Very, very interesting man, very, very intelligent, super
mhm,
smart. And we're going to be talking about how the hive mentality, in fact, is the matrix. And
mhm.
how, and,
He always stretches my brain.
he's incredible. He's a
He's
gifted genius.
very smart.
Yeah,
Very smart.
Tommy's a gifted genius.
Mhm,
He's amazing. And he speaks. So in the beginning, I remember, I think the first show he did it was Mornay on the show
mhm.
with us, and I sat and I was like thinking, "Wow, this guy is like," and I was like running in my mind to catch up with him.
Right,
And
right, right.
it was amazing because the minute I got him and I understood him,
Mhm,
energetically, I see how his energy plays itself out, if you will, and
mhm.
just how brilliant he is. He is absolutely brilliant, and he's got lots of gifts for humanity. But
Yeah.
right at the moment, we still kind of feel like we are kind of like singularly standing and trying to fight a whirlwind, with
Mhm.
all this other stuff that's still about, we're using our voices as much as what we can and creating
That's
as
all you
much
can do.
awareness.
That's all you can
Yeah,
do.
and that's what everyone is doing. Yeah. So
Mhm.
thank you again, everybody, for
Okay.
watching. And I hope the sound is better now that I'm not shrieking in the background anymore. It's very frustrating.
Okay.
Yeah? No, it's not nice when the sound is off. So sorry about that. And we'll catch up with you in an hour or two. God bless you all. Take good care. And again, thank you to all our Patreons. Without you guys, we wouldn't have the nuts and the bolts of our channel. You are so, so appreciated. I know, Alice, you're one of our Patreons
Thank
as
you.
well. So thank you. Take good care, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.